Hello everyone and welcome back to another Batman Miniature Game 3rd edition battle report for the channel. Today we have a 350 rep Joker crew featuring the 3 Jokers versus 350 rep Birds of Prey, led by Harley Quinn this time. So the theme here is her trying to get revenge finally on her former Puddin. On the table layout you can see before you, quite densely packed this time around. Anyway, let's take a look at the 2 crews. So there's actually 8 miniatures in both crews this time around, although the 3 Jokers do give the ability to bring some people back as Joker's victims. Being led by the criminal in the middle there, and flanked on his right, our left, by the comedian, and then the clown over here. I think that's the right way around, let me just check. Yes it is. The new Gaggy over there, very cheap and cheerful. Hobo Clown to fill out some points. The sidekick is Punchline, and then of the new paramilitary Joker henchmen we have Paramilitary 2 with his gun and 3 with his rocket launcher, who at some point did get updated in the app, so he doesn't have his blood knife anymore, which was probably given to him by mistake. He has a single-use poison rocket. I printed the cards out fairly early after these were put on the app, so I've got the old version that has him with the knife, but yeah, in the app he does have a poison rocket now. As far as upgrades, most of it's taken up by the guns. I know I'm forgetting someone. I think someone has neurotropic drugs. We can cover that at deployment. Well, we're over with the Birds of Prey crew, but just to quickly cover that now instead of at deployment. Gaggy is the one with neurotropic drugs, and Paramilitary 2 with his machine gun has extra ammo. Anyway, Birds of Prey, being led by the new Harley Quinn and her Harley Quinn themed thugs. He has been given adaptive planning, that's the only upgrade. That's number 1. I think that's 2, 3, 4, but I could be wrong. And then we're bringing Deadshot. Harley is charismatic as well, so it's worth mentioning. The henchman version of Polka Dot Man, not the Suicide Squad version, just the old school, like super duper old comic version of Polka Dot Man. And then to fill out points, sort of a friend of Harley Quinn, sort of, we have the Weasel from the Suicide Squad box. And they're in the pure red icons this time. Also 8 miniatures, same number as the 3 Jokers crew, and we'll see what Harley can do this time. And much like the last time we saw her and these new themed henchmen, they'll be making good use of that new fast roll definition, although neurotropic drugs gives that to Gaggy as well. So there's going to be a lot of free movement when any model finishes an action once per round, and that can be very manipulated to your advantage, as we saw last time with Azrael not being able to catch anyone, because as soon as he gets into base to base with them, for anyone gets into base to base with them for that matter, if they haven't used it, they can just proc fast, get out of range. The person trying to attack them doesn't have any reach. That's their action ruined. It seems a bit too powerful, to be honest. It might be liable to be changed, but at time of recording, it hasn't. So anyway, let's get deployed. So we are all set up and good to go. The Birds of Prey are deployed to your left and will be taking first activation in battle round 1, and the 3 Jokers crew is to your right. And they have a couple of undercover. All the paramilitaries have undercover, so they can deploy up to 8 outside deployment. As such, the one with the rocket launcher is up here, and the one with the machine gun is on top of that building, which is 2 very good positions considering the layout for the table, which is bad for the Birds of Prey. The 3 Jokers, the comedian is here, the criminal, and the clown up there with Gaggy. As per usual with the Joker crew, their audacity markers can be switched between people with Trickster, and thanks to Jokers having Chaos Agent, they can give every henchman the role. But just to show intent on the table for ease of recording, we're showing you where that is. Also, if you're bringing the 3 Jokers, that pretty much dictates most of the time where 3 out of the 4 are going anyway. So, and Punchline can't benefit from Trickster because she's not a henchman, so she has the other one by default anyway. So it doesn't really matter, but going forwards there might be a case for one of the henchmen having it, but just so it's covered. And if we look over here, we have Polka Dot Man down here with Audacity, we have Deadshot with Audacity next to Harley who has it, and then the Roller Derby Thug 1 has it, and that's the one with Adaptive, and in turn 1 he has taken Defense up. So he's Defense, I think I might put him at Defense 5, I can't remember, no, Defense 4. There is one Phase 1 card being played. The Birds of Prey have got an early Die Hard, which is really good, and they are playing it on the Weasel, who has Stealth, so he should be pretty well protected for at least 1 turn, and if he survives this turn, he'll score that for 2. So without further ado, let's jump in and see how this plays out. So the Birds of Prey's hand was slightly forced by the paramilitaries deploying via undercover, Roller Derby Thug 1 activated, and when he activated I Work Best Alone was played on him, the Birds of Prey card. So every time he puts down a suspect marker, put 1d6 on this with a number up, roll a die at the end of a turn. If it matches, score for 2. He did that with the playing 1 activation card. He then moved up and he has reached 3 on his attack, so he is destroying this lamp because he needs to get rid of that, so it's harder for the paramilitary 2 to shoot at anyone down here. It pretty much means he is going to be shot. However, his turn's not over. He started within reach. Oh, he did have a Dasty, sorry, just to be clear. There it was back there. He started within 8 of Harley, so he had a free manipulate. He used that to put down a suspect marker as well. He's not doing anything with his special action, but upon using that manipulate to put down the suspect marker, he's activating his fast and moving 2 inches this way to give him at least a little bit of cover if he decides to get shot at. First activation for the Joker crew was Hobo Clown, the humble Hobo Clown without Audacity. He did not take Audacity with the Chaos Agent Trickster. He just walked forwards. He did start next to the criminal though, which gave him a manipulate. He put it down, and it is not a normal suspect marker, however, it is a Stinky Fish. Being the first, it doesn't look fresh, of the game instantly. Not ideal placement for it because the comedian up there is the one of the 3 jokers who works well with the Stinky Fish. He can kick them down the table and poison anyone it touches, but he's not going to get away with it on that one. The clown, sorry, not the comedian. Get ready for that happening a lot. The comedian is the one from the Killing Joke. The clown is the silly one with the fish in a very unfortunate pose. Also, I don't think I mentioned what got put on I Work Best Alone. It was a 4. Second model to activate for Harley's Birds of Prey was Deadshot. He moved up his full 10 inches in order to get 2 juicy targets within 8 inches of his blood stun handguns. He split his fire. For moving, he obviously lost 2, but he activated rapid fire for his special action, so that's 1 back. So essentially just losing the strength die. He's an expert marksman for +1 to his chance to hit as well. Well, he was already on 2 pluses for Hobo Clown, because Hobo Clown is Hobo Clown. So he split 2 and 2. 1 was lost here though because he has a bulletproof vest on the paramilitaries. So the one that did hit went through, 1 blood, 1 stun. And down here, both went into Hobo Clown for 2 blood, 2 stun. He lived. It's not often that Hobo Clown gets hit by something and is conscious and alive. But for splitting his shots in the manner in which he did, he scores a pretty birds. 2 enemy models suffer damage from the same attack action by a friendly model. Neither could draw line of sight at the beginning of their activation. Now presumably that applies to the current activation because when that light was still up, they could see him. But because of a night roll, now that it's gone, they couldn't. So presumably that's allowed, and it has scored. One of the 3 jokers has decided to activate the criminal, the boss currently. He moved up his 8 inches. He really wanted to shoot Deadshot. He's got a Thompson, it's a Tommy gun that's the same stats as the one Two-Face has. It's really, really powerful. But points are what matters, not just killing people for no reason. There has to be a reason. I should have mentioned when he activated though, Seasoning the Mix was played as a resource for 1. At the start of a model's activation, move up to 2 friendly suspect markers 4 inches. He moved the Stinky Fish out the way because he needed to do that to actually score something when he put down a suspect marker that's just outside of 4 of the Stinky Fish and just within 4 of Deadshot there to get a let them in on the joke, which is hopefully not too reflective. 1 friendly model with the Trickster trait places a suspect marker within 4 of an enemy model. When this happens, both players discard a card. So that is the Joker crew officially on the board because the fish is still in play with 2 points. The Weasel activated Too Far From Harley for free manipulates. No, wait, no, he's a free agent. Keep forgetting, so he wouldn't have one. He looks and acts like a henchman. But either way, he didn't use anything. He simply moved up and is small enough, or maybe he's just looking for something in that truck. He is hiding there to make sure he maintains that die hard at the end of the turn and doesn't get shot by paramilitary up on the building there. Incidentally, I must have knocked the Stinky Fish slightly while measuring off camera before that last one. It was actually within 4 of that placement. It now is not. It must have been knocked ever so slightly. It was right in front of Hobo Clown, so there was more than enough distance there. Just, yeah. I knew it looked weird as I was talking. I was like, hang on a minute, something isn't right here. Remeasured, and it's fine now. The second of the 3 jokers activated, and it was the clown just leaving the comedian. He moved up his 8 inches, and then he put down his assessment marker. He had Audacity, and it became Chattering Teeth would bite the dust, the old explosive teeth. Rolled a 3, however, he then made use of his special action because he specialises in messing with teeth and Stinky Fish. It's unfortunately called, what is it called? Chattering Teeths, which doesn't make much sense, but either way, he kicks the teeth 4 inches and then lowers the number on it by 1, which is why it's not in base to base with him and why it's already down to a 2. So that kind of deters someone on this side of the table activating, because it's going to move the teeth right towards them. Trying to do a little bit of board manipulation. Doesn't matter who gets hit by it in the end of the day though. At the end of the day, as long as someone gets hit by it, it'll score. So getting away from those teeth, Polka Dot Man activated for the Birds of Prey, and he can kind of ignore buildings and whatnot. He just kind of flies around on his gigantic polka dot. He did so all the way up here 10 inches to get a good line of sight on Paramilitary 3. Oh, at the start of his turn also, Harley's car Jokerometer, unfortunately named because she's not with Joker, but either way, and now if any model within 4 inches of Polka Dot Man rolls 2 natural 1s, it does all this stuff. It probably won't happen, or if it does, we'll forget. But either way, it's in play just to get out of hand, more or less. So this Polka Dot Man, he counts as having throwing weapons, so he doesn't lose anything for moving. He did lose 1 to the Bulletproof Vest, so he lost the Strength die, which is mechanical for him. Either way, though, he was just rolling 3s anyway, and he got him with all 4, so unfortunately we're not going to see that poisoned rocket launcher do anything, because Paramilitary 3 is out of there. He already had 1 damage on him from before, and he has 5 health in total. He's a 5/5 mini. So, unfortunate, but Joker is going to score something on that, because his paramilitaries are expendable. Friendly model with the Trickster trait is removed as a casualty or becomes KO, and also we both discard a card at random, and all his henchmen have Trickster thanks to Chaos Agent. So he profited off of that as well. So in order to make the explosive teeth score, Gaggy activated without Audacity and just walked up behind the clown, and forgot to mention, but it moved 4 inches towards Polka Dot Man. Kind of got stuck on this building, not sure if it's allowed to scale the building or not, so just left it stuck at it. It went back towards the Gaggy 2 inches, so it exploded and hit Joker in the face. He put it down, it came back to him and exploded. I'm sure he found that very funny. He gets 1 self-inflicted blood damage as a result, and scores the Bite the Dust that was in play. However, upon Gaggy finishing that movement, the Harlequin thug down here with the gas launcher made use of her fast and has come forwards 2 inches for reasons that I'm sure related to them both being eliminated by a lamp. Well, as you might have guessed, the Harlequin roller derby thug with the grenade launcher activated ended up being somewhere different because of a new rule she has called Recoil. But let's cover what she actually did. Without Audacity, that free movement at the end of Gaggy's action put her within, well, actually because they're next to a lamp she didn't need to move really. She moved mostly to account for the recoil, presuming that you stop when you hit scenery, because the recoil rule does not specify, which probably does need cleared up. Like, would she shoot herself over the car bonnet? Because what recoil does is, after she fires, she gets pushed back 4 inches, or 2 inches, however far. I think it's 4. But there's a car in the way. Does she go over the bonnet of it? Does she stay on it? It doesn't specify. Either way, she has 2 grenades she can fire, an enervating one that has bleed on it, I think, or just an improvised launcher for blood stun. It's firearms, so it's a 2+. And she fired that at Gaggy and Joker. Forgot to put the damage on the table, but they both took 1 blood, 1 stun from it. She is just outside of 12, or was just outside of 12 when she did that, so they couldn't see her either. So another Pretty Birds has scored for the Birds of Prey. The last of the 3 Jokers activated, the Comedian. He didn't really do much with his turn. He moved up his 8 and is just stopping there. If you can get into close combat, he's got the crowbar, which is one of the best double stun weapons in the game. So if he gets into base to base with a dead shot, he'll be in for a rough time. But as of yet, can't do it. There's 2 activations left for the Joker crew. We still have a couple of the Harley thugs and Harley herself for the Birds of Prey. The roller derby thug with the hockey stick moved up. He was within 8 of Harley when he activated, so he put down a manipulated free suspect marker. Then upon him completing that action, Harley and the other roller derby thug with the flamethrower that haven't activated yet, they made use of their once per round fast 2 and have moved this way 2 inches. Punchline activated and dashed forwards her 12 inches over here, and then chucked some throwing knives into Deadshot. He has dodged, so he can force 1 success to be rerolled, but 2 got through all said and done for 2 blood, and he is poisoned. Punchline is an excellent poison delivery system, and she has that toxicologist rule as well. So it's back over to the Birds of Prey for either Harley or her last thug. The flamethrower wielding roller derby thug activated first out of the 2 of those, moved up his 10 inches. He was right next to Harley, so he has a free inspire to manipulate, but can't put it down where he is because of the marker right there. So it's just wasted, but he is in position. We can actually cover Joker's last activation right now as well. It's the paramilitary up on the building there. He's activating, taking one effort to stop himself firing, because that's what they have to do if they don't do an attack action during their turn, which he's about to heal in the recap phase anyway. And then he's not doing anything. He is choosing not to fire despite having some potential targets. There is a reason for it, and I'm curious if anyone knows what it is. So last activation for the first turn, Harley moved up behind her henchman and then used the Harley Quinn show special rule she has to discard They Must Know Pain, which is a attack type objective card or whatever that gun symbol means, which means she can pick a henchman with the same keyword as her within 8 to do an attack action. This was the plan. So the flamethrower wielding thug, boom, expansive wave, couldn't catch Hobo Clown, did catch the two jokers, and Punchline unfortunately rolled a 1 against Punchline, but the two jokers there, the criminal and the comedian, they both took 1 blood, 1 stun, and are set on fire, and because we're now going into the end phase, might as well just count that as 2 blood, because they immediately take damage because they can't get rid of the fire until the next turn, or the next time they activate. So didn't score any cards off that, but hey, hurt them a little bit. So we'll go to the cleanup for the first turn. So then about round 1, Deadshot failed his poison roll, and because he's within 8 inches of the toxicologist Punchline, that is 2 more blood, up to 4 in total, which is pretty nasty. There is no additional cards being played, however we do need to roll for a card in play. We need to roll for our best alone. It needs to be a 4. So close. So close. But nope, stays in play though, but no score. The diehard scores for the Birds of Prey, the Weasel, it lived for another day doing that weird tongue thing he does from the movie, and it doesn't look fresh. Scores for the Joker crew. Now as we go into about round 2, the comedian is going to be making use of a rule he has called Manipulative to try and force Deadshot to go last. I think it's an opposed willpower roll. We'll cover that though at the top of the next turn. So top of round 2, and the Birds of Prey have retained first activation, and Deadshot passed his willpower roll, which is what you had to do to avoid being manipulated by the comedian into going last, which would have been murderous for him. There is 2 cards being played, a phase 1 and a phase 2, both by the Jokers, and the first is Let's Dance. So if anyone with the leader, psychic, or free agent rank, so that's the 3 Jokers themselves and Punchline, they take damage this round, that will score for 2, which means it's a guaranteed score if they choose not to get rid of their fire, because they'll take damage in the recount phase. Although I'm not sure if that happens first, before the scoring, or after. Either way, I don't think they'd like to remain on fire, but that's just something of note. And the second card they're putting into play is a Psychopaths card, which is why the paramilitary held off shooting an easy target last turn. Why do it then when it doesn't count for anything, when you can do it now and help contribute towards potentially getting 3 points. The I Work Best Alone stays in play on the roller derby, the big guy. The Joker meter stays in play on Polka Dot Man. All that's left is who has Audacity. Speaking of which, Polka Dot Man has Audacity, as does Harley, as does the Weasel, and as does the other, the big roller derby thug. He's taking a buff to his movement. Harley is taking a buff to her defense. They're both adaptable. The 2 of the 3 Jokers down here have Audacity, of course. The other of the 3 Jokers has Audacity, and Punchline. There we go. That's where the last one was. Punchline has Audacity as well. But as said, Birds of Prey retained first activation. Let's see what they do with it. Well, you're about to see the definition of overkill. Deadshot activated without Audacity because there was a chance of him getting jumped. He shot the last of his assault, just the first round of his assault rifle, because he shot his pistol in turn 1, into Hobo Clown, who only had 2 health left, for the record. But shot into him, did 8 blood, 4 stun, so would you believe it? That actually killed him. Goodbye, Hobo Clown. Thank you for playing, as always, to score a cheeky 1 point with Catch a Bullet. That does, however, put 1 marker on Psychopaths, because friendly kills, or friendly deaths, also count towards it. And now he's just sitting there, and for a lot of bother. The criminal activated and had to move to get rid of his fire. Then he shot his Tommy gun into poor Deadshot, got him twice for 4 blood, 2 stun. Deadshot is dead, however, he can make a better Joker, so, oops, not that one maybe. A Joker's victim appears where Deadshot was, and is now part of their crew. Not exactly like super threatening, but still an extra number to add up to their losses. It's been a very bloody match so far. Not many suspect markers being put down. Both sides are scoring cards despite that. It's a slugfest. So Deadshot is gone. Didn't score anything on that, didn't have any seasoning the mixes or anything like that, but that is now +2 on Psychopaths overall. Polka Dot Man activated, and he was up on this building, but we have to cover what happened as he activated. Confusion was played as a resource to move a friendly model 3 inches. The roller derby thug over here has been moved 3 inches. So for Polka Dot Man's turn, he kind of flew over here into the scaffolding, and then he shot the last of his polka dots, he's only got 2 loads of them, into the recently spawned Joker's victim. Got him for 4. He's out of there, and for the casualty, that scores, and I'm feeling weird. The comedian activated, and from where he was, used a special action for his one-shot gun, the once per game. Shot a gun into the flamethrower roller derby thug, got him for 3, but crit would have done 6, so he should consider himself lucky. He then moved up to where you can see him right next to that thug, and he put down a suspect marker in order to score another let them in on the joke. Because he has the actually, does he have the trickster trait? One of the jokers doesn't. The comedian... Oh, he's the one who doesn't. Oh, no, that's Psycho. He does not have it. He's the one who doesn't have it. The clown does, and the criminal does, but he does not. So actually, that can't score. He'll still just do the turn, because we can't undo that now, but that card will go back in his hand. Forgot that he didn't have it until just now. Yeah, for some reason he doesn't. Don't actually, I'll check the app between takes just to make sure it hasn't been updated, because it's weird that he doesn't and the other two do. Either way, with him placing that, there's more enemy suspect markers than friendly, so in position is being put face up as per the Birds of Prey rules. So the scoring condition for it is now just place a suspect marker within 4 of an enemy, which makes it much, much easier to score. Well, I'm glad I decided to double check, because as we can see in the app, hopefully, if this comes into focus, any second now, right down there, I assure you, it says Trickster. So at some point, it must have been an error when that still existed when it was printed out, because the printed version I have, which is just from the site, does not have Trickster listed. But he is a Trickster, so that makes sense. So to let them in on the joke, it does score. The flamethrower roller derby thug activated without audacity, but next to Harley, he moved 10 inches and then put down a suspect marker such that it is within 4 of the criminal, and that means that in position that got flipped upright is scored for 2. He's then making use of his fast to go another 2 inches this way to try and get to safety, because I think he has 1 health left. Well, Punchline couldn't be having that. She chased down the roller derby thug, chucked the last of her throwing knives into him. It would have poisoned him, doesn't matter. He is out of there, and in total that's the psychopath card up now to 4 in Joker's favour. So the roller derby thug, who is making use of Adaptable to get even more distance, and also used fast after completing his movement for a total of 14, I think, considering his base size and size in general, got him very far. He ran up here and then used his tactical action to remove the lamp, just to try and give himself a better protection, as he may be about to get shot in the back of the head, but he's positioning himself for later. The clown activated and moved up to the van here, putting down a new stinky fish, as if begging someone to come forward into the line of fire to get rid of it and also get poisoned in the process. That would be lovely. Harley activated and sadly couldn't really make use of her Harlequin show turn, or power this turn. She moved up 12, including using her fast after completing that to move an extra 2 for a total of 14, and then put down a suspect marker right where you can see it, just outside of 4 of this one right there. Second last activation for the 3 jokers was Gaggy. He moved up, making use of his fast from Neurotropic Drugs afterward to separate himself a little bit from the clown. So sadly also a bit of a wasted activation for the grenade launcher wielding roller derby thug. She tried to fire the only other improvised launcher, blood stun at Gaggy, wouldn't have hit the Joker, and it missed him. Just missed him. Rolled natural 1. Now again, the recoil would kick in. We're going to count it that the car stops her. If that's wrong, obviously correct it going forward, but we're having her stop on the scenery, at least this time. She'd end up knocking herself off the table otherwise. So now it's over to the paramilitary, who hasn't done anything yet, and he's not got a good shot. He'd have to shoot into the night to get her. That's been pre-measured, so we'll have to see what he does. Well, our paramilitary friend has just turned to face the target just for recording's sake, and he shot into the big roller derby thug. The reason for that he didn't shoot sooner is because he has so much health. He has 8, so it was very unlikely that he'd kill him, and he did maximum damage and did not kill him. He did 6 blood, so he's got 2 left. But he was worried about Psychopath not getting scored, because currently it's 4-2 in favour of Joker, so even if Weasel puts down a suspect marker, it's still going to end the turn in Joker's favour and score. So he was safe to just pepper in a little bit of damage. He's still got one load of ammo left, in fact 2, because he had extra ammo bought for him. So he did lots of damage to the big guy, who is now really hurting. And I think there's just, actually know what, it might not be Weasel that activates, because there's still this gentleman down here. So we can actually cover both those activations to take us to the end of the second battle round. The hockey stick wielding roller derby thug ran up here, made use of his fast, got into base to base with Punchline. Over here, Weasel, well, given that psychopaths can't be stopped, why not try and eat a guy? So he charged into Gaggy, sneak attack, because he couldn't be seen from behind those truck doors. So he efforted 3 times, Gaggy couldn't because of sneak attack, and he does blood stun with his claws, and did 4 blood, 4 stun. Gaggy's a 5 willpower but 4 endurance mini, so he just got eaten, and that also means, thanks to his cannibal roll, that 2 of that stun is immediately being healed. That does put Psychopaths up to 5, but it was already scoring anyway, so who cares? And with that, we're into the cleanup. So at the end of the second battle round, we do quickly need to sort of retcon something, just that what the Birds of Prey were aiming to score is actually a phase 3 card, not a phase 4. So the Weasel, during his activation, didn't play any other cards, so he put into play the Nest just to end off the turn, which happens now. During the recount phase, there are more friendly models than enemy models not KO'd in the enemy deployment zone. Which is true, because there's 0 enemies in the enemy deployment zone, and there's 2 Birds of Prey. So that scored for 3. Forgot that it was a phase 3 though, but was played at a time where nothing could influence the outcome of it. We need to roll a die to see if I Were Best Alone scores. Is it a... Oh, it is! Wow! Okay, I wasn't expecting that, so did not bring the card over. I Were Best Alone on the big roller derby thug has scored for 2. Just as well, because he's very, very close to death. It doesn't look fresh. Scores for the Joker crew for 2. And they actually ended up scoring the same each, I think, because Psychopath scored, and that's 3 there, so that's 5 each. And none of the Jokers or Punchline took damage that turn. They should have left themselves on fire. So, yeah, Let's Dance does not score. Top of round 3, the penultimate round. We can take a look at who has Audacity in a second. There is one phase 2 card being played by the Joker crew. It is another Psychopath, although it's going to be harder to score because there's less people on the table. Everyone keeps dying. For the Birds of Prey crew, Polka Dot Man has Audacity, as does Harley, as does the big guy, and as does the Weasel who's on the far side of that building. The 3 Jokers have Audacity, and so does Punchline, because it's just them and the guy on the roof with the gun. So that is it. The Joker crew has managed to steal back, or not back, they haven't had it yet, to steal first activation. The only other card in play is the Jokerometer on Polka Dot Man. Let's see what happens. Well, it was the paramilitary thug up there that decided to finish the job, start return. It was a mistake putting Audacity on the big guy because he took 2 slugs in the back and is out of there. He did good stuff though. During his turn, prior to that actually, but we'll just cover that now, also that's 1 on Psychopaths. Let them do their thing, was put into play, select a suspect marker, a friendly one. This one here, pick a direction, roll 2d6. It went 7 this way, exploded roughly there, and hit Harley's hockey stick thug and Punchline for 2 stun each, which scores for 2. Harley was first up for the Birds of Prey, and we'll cover where she ended up in a second, but first, using the Harlequin show, she got rid of Sisters in Arms to activate the hockey stick wielding thug, let him do a free attack on Punchline. Only the strength die got through, he's not exactly great, for 2 more stun to her though. Then she revealed her own suspect marker, which she put down last turn, that was next to the Batmobile there, turned it into loot, last possible opportunity, turns wise, so Harley is now holding the loot, and as such she ran away. She ran all the way down to the corner of the table down here behind Polka Dot Man, who can take hits for her if need be. The comedian decided it was time to use that lovely crowbar of his, devastating, handy, heavy, double star. It's really, really good. The Rebirth Red Hood has the same weapon. He went up behind the hockey stick wielding thug, got him 3 times, 6 stun. He is very unconscious, even if he hadn't already taken stun damage. That would have been enough to knock him out. That's +1 on Psychopaths, because KOs count. And didn't do anything else with his turn though, but doesn't need to. He's stalling an activation from the Birds of Prey. Well, running a bit low on Birds of Prey activations, the Weasel activated, peeled round the corner here, and removed the Stinky Fish. I think that was the very first Stinky Fish that got moved slightly, poisoning him in the process, but scoring a quick neutral card, the Confusion. A friendly model reveals an enemy suspect marker within 8 inches of the enemy deployment zone. It's just within 16, or was. The Criminal activated and decided to leave the Weasel alone. He sauntered down the alleyway here and has put down another Stinky Fish. He's quite pleased with how things are going. They're accruing points, and that's 2 more potentially at the end of a turn. Well, a bit awkward to get angle on, but Polka Dot Man activated and did nothing else other than fly up here to safety, still within 8, even given the height of the building of Harley, because he can protect people within 8 getting attacked. This is kind of like the buffing support Polka Dot Man. No ammo left, so that's all he could really do, but he did put into play another nest card during his turn, so that's a potential 3 at the end of the round. The clown happily danced down the street and put down a suspect marker right next to this Harley Thug, who I think is their last activation thanks to the other one being knocked out, and scored the final let them in on the joke. It's only funny so many times. So that Harlequin Thug activated without Audacity, made use of fast after completing a movement action, shot up the street 12 inches in total, and during her turn put into play I Work Best Alone on her. Again, she didn't have Audacity, so there was no way for her to put down a suspect marker this turn, so it can't score. But if she's alive in the final turn, there's always a chance at the end of the game. Punchline stayed where she was and decided to use her sharp poisoned knife on the poor unconscious thug she's in base to base with. Got him for 4 and poisoned him. He's not dead though. He is a 5 endurance model. We are going up into a cleanup for the turn now. Let's just do his endurance roll now, see if he dies to the poison check. 5, 6, 7. He absolutely does, because he takes, well, even 1 would have been enough. But she does 2 damage. Now that begs the question though, what phase does Seasoning the Mix score in? 3. The poison check happens in 4, so I don't think that means the card is scoreable, which is unfortunate, but that does severely limit the number of Birds of Prey activations as we go into the final round. But first let's do cleanup. So at the end of the penultimate round, there's no additional cards being played. Joker Meter stays in play, Valuable Commodities and I Work Best Alone stay in play for the Birds of Prey. Hey, that rhymed. But the nest they had in play scores for 3, because Polka Dot Man and Harley are in the deployment and there's no enemies. For the Joker crew though, I think it's the final Stinky Fish, that scores for 2, and their Psychopaths does as well, because there was no other suspect markers put down, so it was 2-0, or 3-0, either way. Psychopaths score, so they earned another 5 there. They're kind of pulling away in the end game here. So with that, let's jump into the final round. Dawn of the final day, top of the final turn. Basically everyone on the table has Audacity except the Paratrooper on the roof. Oh, and Weasel did survive his poison check for it to cover that. One phase 1 card being played by the Joker crew. Let's Dance is coming out of hand again, offering that extra layer of protection on the 3 Jokers. Otherwise it scores them 2 points. The Birds of Prey options are going to be limited this turn, but let's see what happens as we go in. Oh, and the Birds of Prey did win first activation. They have a bunch of passes though, which they may want to use. Well, the Birds of Prey did decide to activate the roller derby grenade launcher wielding thug, hid themselves behind the building there so they don't get shot by the last of the ammo he's got up there, put down a suspect marker just because, and put into play the final nest card. That's their big score for the round if they're able to get it. Oh, and that means you can put a number on I Work Best Alone. 4 worked well last time, so it'll be 4 again. Well, now fully reloaded, the criminal activated made use of good aim so he can move and fire his aim weapon. Came over here, lost 2 dice, but one of them was not the strength die because it has high caliber, since it's really a 2-face weapon. Shot the Weasel, point blank, 2 hits, 4 blood, 2 stun. The Weasel's still standing, but basically he's their target because getting rid of him while poisoned is their only other opportunity to score something. Well, the Weasel activated, retreated slightly to avoid being shot, or at least he's going to get cover, he can still be seen. And he also used They Must Know Pain as a resource to heal himself for 2 of that blood damage to try and hold on. Well, despite losing 1 die to the cover provided by the Jeep, it would not save the Weasel. He got hit twice, and even after healing 2 with what he had on him left over, that's still enough that he died, and he died while poisoned, so Seasoning the Mix has scored. Now I believe that is the last thing either side has a chance of scoring in terms of disrupting, because at most 2 enemy models could get into deployment, and there's 3, so the nest will still score. We'll take a look at the board state, maybe be back with scoring, or any other plays, but I don't think there's any. So looking at the board state, no, there isn't really anything else. Rolled for what a teeth would have been, because they could have placed an explosive teeth. It would have been more than there is activations left in the game, so that wouldn't have done anything. And plus it would have needed to hit an enemy, an ally, because the enemies are too far away most likely. So we're just going to cover the cards in play and then go to the final score. Let's Dance does not score again, because none of the Jokers or Punchline got hit. So that's discarded. The Valuable Commodities that Harley is holding scores for 3. They also do score the nest It would have been 3-2 if the two people who haven't activated ran in. The clown was too far away to make a difference. So that scores. We have to roll to see if there's a 4 though. Nope. So Ivor Bressalone is out of there. Let's go see who's won. Alright, time to see the outcome, starting with the Birds of Prey. They scored a lot of high scoring cards. Hopefully that'll make the difference. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Very fair score. 27. Joker's got a bigger deck, but his cards are in general worth less. So 27 to beat. There is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Oh! The Birds of Prey win by 2 points. If that explosive teeth number had been lower, that would have scored for 2 and made it a dead draw. Huh. Well, even if you were going by tournament settings, that's still a draw, even though there's 2 points difference. So, very close one. Joker's crew, the 3 Jokers are very powerful on the table, obviously, and the Birds of Prey crew are suffering. The final Harley Quinn thug would have went down pretty easily. Polka Dot Man's pretty tanky, and Harley's good at dodging. Most of that game was ranged attacks. There was very few close combat attacks. Both sides had their fair share of ranged stuff that they were just making use of to score cards. Not just pointlessly hit each other, they were all scoring working towards scoring cards. But yeah, in the end of it, the Birds of Prey, by the skin of their teeth, technically win with what little people they have left on the table. The 3 Jokers, though, survived. They're very fun. I think there was a missed opportunity to spawn another Joker's victim. Wouldn't have made much of a difference, really. But that does also help towards Psychopath. Like if you throw out all these super weak henchmen just deliberately to die. Might help the enemy score stuff, but Psychopath is worth 3, and that's fairly rare for the Joker's deck. In fact, I think that is his only 3 card. Either way, hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you very much for doing so, and stay tuned for more in the future. If you want to support what we do here, consider pressing the thanks button, becoming a channel member, or checking out Patreon. It helps support the channel and is reinvested in the purchase of miniatures to show on the channel. Until next time, ta-ta for now.